I don't think Mason expected me to remember anything, but I did. It didn't all come back at once, but every day that I sat in that hospital bed, silent, watching, my mind unraveled more of the truth. And it wasn't just the memory of Mason signing that paper. It was the whispers I heard before they thought I could hear. The faces that didn't match the voices, the relief in his tone when he thought I was gone. He wasn't grieving. He was planning something, and I was going to find out exactly what. The nurses noticed I was becoming more responsive. I could move a little more. Blink on command. My breathing was stronger. They called it miraculous. But to me, it wasn't a miracle. It was survival. And I wasn't done surviving yet. Mason came in that afternoon acting like nothing had changed. He sat beside me and held my hand, that same fake softness in his voice. I missed you today. The doctor said you're getting better. I knew you would, Camille. I blinked slowly. I wanted to scream, but I had to be smart. If Mason thought I was still weak, still quiet, he'd let his guard down, and I needed that. The therapist started daily sessions with me, small movements, speech exercises, and even though it hurt, I pushed myself every second, every syllable, every blink. Because I wasn't just healing, I was preparing. One day, the therapist left the room and Mason came in moments later. I'll never forget what he said. He looked at me, calm, controlled, and said, I know you're in there, I can feel it. But we're past the point of no return now, baby, so whatever you're thinking of doing, don't. Then he leaned in and kissed my forehead, like a threat disguised as affection. I didn't react, but something inside me burned. He was scared. He knew I remembered. When Olivia came to visit, it was different. She sat closer, held my hand longer. She looked at me like she knew something was wrong, like she felt it in her bones. I keep having dreams about you, she whispered, that you're trying to tell me something. I blinked once, then again. She froze. Oh my God. I blinked a third time. She covered her mouth. You're trying to communicate? I blinked twice. Yes. Her eyes welled with tears. Camille, what happened to you? I stared at her, willed her to understand, but before I could respond again, a nurse stepped in, and Olivia quickly wiped her eyes and stood. But she knew, and she was going to help me. Later that week, the doctors agreed I could try moving to a rehab center. It was progress, but Mason didn't like that. I heard him in the hallway, arguing with Dr. Levins. She's not ready, he snapped. She's barely functioning. She's showing consistent signs of improvement, the doctor replied. We believe with the right therapy, she'll regain full speech and motor function. Mason didn't say another word. But that silence, it was loud. He was planning something, and I was running out of time. At the rehab center, I began to speak, one word, then two. It was like breaking a dam. Everything that had been stuck inside me, rage, confusion, sorrow, came flooding out. But I told no one about Mason's role. Not yet. I needed more. I needed proof. It was Olivia who gave it to me. She came back one morning, pale and shaking, clutching something in her hands. Camille, she said breathlessly, I found this in the attic. It's yours. I thought it was just a journal at first, but she handed it to me. It was a binder. Inside were records, notes, account details, and tucked between the pages, a life insurance policy with my name on it, dated 2 months before the accident, signed by Mason. But the signature next to his, it wasn't mine. It had been forged. I stared at the paper, my heart thundering in my chest. He planned it. He planned everything. He was trying to kill me for money, and I was too close to the truth. "Do you believe me now?" I whispered to Olivia. She was crying. "I never doubted you." We contacted a lawyer that same day, and then the police. I gave my full statement. Olivia handed over the policy, and just like that, the case was open. But Mason wasn't going to go down easy. He had lies. He had backup lies. He was ready for battle. And the worst part? He wasn't alone. Because when we pulled his phone records, bank transfers, and recent activity, etc., we found something else. Something I didn't expect. Another name. A woman. Not just a mistress, a partner. In everything. Her name was Danica Harper. She wasn't a stranger. In fact, she used to be my friend. Years ago, Danica and I worked at the same marketing agency. She was bright, quick-witted, and always flirted with Mason a little too much at company dinners. I thought it was harmless. I thought I was secure in my marriage. But as it turns out, their affair had been going on far longer than I ever imagined. Olivia found it all. Old emails, private messages, hotel reservations. They'd been together for years. Plotting, waiting, and the most disgusting part? Danica helped him pick out the life insurance policy. She'd done the research, found the insurer, even filled out some of the paperwork. She was in on everything. I sat in the rehab center, hands trembling, reading their messages. Once she's gone, we can start our life, really start it. She won't feel a thing. It'll look like natural causes. The doctors will say it was complications. They always do. It wasn't just betrayal. It was evil, calculated, cold. But I was alive, and they didn't know I was coming back. The police advised we wait, that we build the case, that we let them slip up. But I couldn't wait much longer. My body healed faster than they thought. Within weeks, I was walking again. And I didn't tell Mason. I didn't tell anyone but Olivia and the detective. Because the element of surprise? That was my weapon. I'll never forget the look on Mason's face the day I walked into our house again. Not in a wheelchair, not with nurses flanking me, but on my own 2 feet. He turned white. He tried to play it cool, offered me tea, smiled like he hadn't tried to bury me alive. But I knew, and he could feel it. I let him talk, let him pretend, let him lie, and every word he said made it easier for me to stay calm, because I knew justice was coming. That night, Olivia came over. We sat in the kitchen drinking tea like we used to before my life imploded. "He's nervous," she said. "He keeps checking the windows. His phone hasn't stopped buzzing." "Danica?" She nodded. "They're unraveling. Good, let them." The next morning, I followed Mason. He said he had a meeting in the city, but I watched him pull into a small motel on the outskirts of town. Room 108. Danica opened the door. I stayed in the car, recording. 20 minutes later, he left, wiping his hands on his jeans, his head on a swivel. That was all I needed. I handed the footage over to the detective that afternoon. They'd been waiting for probable cause, and now they had it. But even then, even as the evidence stacked up, a part of me ached. Not because I wanted him back, God no, but because this was the man I gave my life to, the man I trusted to hold my hand through sickness and in health. And he tried to end me for a payout. I wanted to scream, but instead I stayed silent, waited, watched. The arrest came 3 days later, early morning, 6:14 a.m. They knocked on the door. Mason opened it in his robe, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He looked confused, then panicked, then defeated. They cuffed him on the porch. Danica was arrested at her apartment an hour later. The news spread fast. At the preliminary hearing, I walked in through the front door. Alone, strong. Mason's jaw dropped when he saw me. Alive, whole, standing tall. He mouthed something. "Camille, please." But I didn't even blink. He wasn't worth a second glance. Danica tried to plead temporary insanity. Claimed Mason manipulated her, said she never believed he'd go through with it. But the emails said otherwise. She was just as involved, just as guilty, just as evil. In court, I read a victim impact statement. I stood before a packed room, reporters, attorneys, strangers, and said the words I'd waited months to speak. "You didn't just betray your vows, Mason. You betrayed humanity, compassion, love. You tried to erase me for money, but I'm still here. And I will not let your darkness steal my light." He cried. Danica cried. I didn't. I had already shed every tear I had. Now, I was fire. Mason was sentenced to 25 years without parole. Danica got 18 for conspiracy and attempted murder. They'll be old when they get out, if they ever do. And me? I started over. I moved to a new city with Olivia's help, got a job at a women's shelter, helped others who'd survived betrayal, violence, and heartbreak. Because I knew what it felt like, and I knew how to rise. Some nights I still wake up in a cold sweat, memories flashing behind my eyes, but I look in the mirror at the woman who survived her own funeral, and I smile. Because I'm not broken anymore. I'm free. I'm alive. And that's the best revenge there is. If you stayed with me through this story, thank you. This wasn't just a story of betrayal. It was a fight to be heard. Now I'd love to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from? Tell me in the comments, and let me know which part of this story hit you the hardest. Because sometimes, sharing your voice is the first step to healing.